And I don't know.
So how did that first set go?
Believe it or not, like before I went up, I was freaking out, and I went to the bar and just got hammered drunk.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I got shit faced.
Nice.
And then
a little risky, but
very risky. And so I got shit faced drunk, and then I saw that Edie was going up, and Edie had, I think it was 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
And so I saw she was going up, and I was like, oh no, I'm next. And went back to the bar and got a pitcher of water, thinking that the water would make up for all the drunk. So I got shit faced, and then I tried to drown out the shit facedness with water.
Okay.
All it did was make me have to pee. But so it comes to the end of her set. I'm freaking out. And then I get introduced. I get brought up there, and I'm kind of shaky. And I think I've got a DVD around here somewhere that has my set on it.
Really?
But it was put up with, like, the CD was put together with I don't know if it was just a bad program or what, but you put the DVD into anything, and it's like, oh, cannot play this format. Like, fucking fantastic.
Oh, really?
Even putting it into a computer, most computers, like, I don't even know what this format is. So, you can tell that the DVD was kind of put together with a first-time user, and so I think I've got it on DVD, but I think the footage is so hard to get to that it's ridiculous. But anyway, I get up there and I'm shaking. I move the mic stand around, and I don't know. From what I've been told, like from other people, like, that was great. I didn't think you were going to do as well as you did. Like, oh, thanks.
Right.
Like another backhanded compliment, but
right.
Still, I had a lot more people saying you did great than did awful. So that's all I was hoping for with the first time out. But of course, with that came the bug of like, oh, you should do it more. Like, you're right. I definitely should. And it just,
and that was it, man.
Yeah, and that's all she wrote basically.
Nice.
But yeah, like that first
I was not
night.
so lucky, man. Have I ever told you the story of the first time I did stand up?
I don't think so.
Oh, so I had basically maybe 2 or 3 jokes that I thought would take up about 5 minutes, mm-hmm. and one was about how aggressive pigeons in Chicago are, mm-hmm. And it was a kind of a weird idea. It didn't work. Anyways, there was one about how like it's not gay when football players slap each other on the ass because of some reason. I don't know. It was just a bunch of hacky shit.
Yeah.
But I was like, in my head, I was like, all right, I have to have a backup plan in case these jokes that I think are very funny aren't funny. And so I brought like a romance novel up.
Yeah.
And Bobby Ray Bunch was the host at it was at the Establishment Theater. He was the host of the very first open mic I did, and I get off stage after getting like a few nervous laughs, and basically just a bunch of quiet. And then, but I left the book up there, and Bobby was like, "Do you want your romance novel?" I mean, like he just totally called me out, and I was like, "Yeah, I guess my mom will be mad if I don't." So that was like the story, and I was like, I was so surprised I didn't quit because generally, if I'm not good at something right away, or at least decent, I don't do it. But
you're like, yeah, this is the end of that.
But man, there's just something about getting on stage, man, that like it just hooked me right away.
Yeah, no, I felt the exact same way. It's like I don't think I could tell you what my first set was, like off the top of my head.
Right.
But all I remember
you'd be able to show me if that video worked, huh?
Right, if that goddamn DVD worked in anything I put it in. But yeah, the first time I ever did it, it definitely kind of kicked in that feeling of like, I don't enjoy life without this. Like, I've got to keep doing this no matter what. But yeah, so I mean, since then I've done hundreds of shows now, and I don't know about you, but every time before I go up, like I still have that feeling of like, oh, I hope I don't shit the bed. I hope I don't shit the bed. I hope I don't shit the bed. And then afterwards, it's like, that went fine, like it usually does. I should get up there again here in the next 5 minutes.
You know what it is? Like, I think for me, I'm always nervous until I get that first laugh. Once the first laugh is out of the way, I'm like, all right,
get the ball rolling.
They're on board.
Yeah.
I've heard people say that you should always start with your second best joke, and then close with your best joke, right? Yeah. I just start with one. Like, I have a few that are just like I know that they're gonna hit. Yeah. So I'll start with one of those. But I'm always nervous, especially if there's a small crowd. If there's a big crowd, I'm like, let's fucking do this. Like, I can.
Right. Let's roll.
I can operate. But if there's like 10 people in a crowd, I'm like, fuck, man, I've got to be good. You know, like you got to be on. Because the laughter is contagious, right?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like if you're in a big room, and you get a small portion of people to laugh, that's still quite a few people,
right?
But if you're in a small room and there's only 10 people to play to, you feel like you've got to like focus all your energy,
right?
And I don't know, it can be taxing.
It's what if they don't, what if they don't like the joke, and then so here's the thing. I remember I was talking to Todd Wilhite about he doesn't like one-liners. I mean, he doesn't mind other people doing, but he won't do. He's got like 2 one-liners in his arsenal. The rest are like 5 to 7 minute bits, all of them.
Right.
And we've talked, and I'm like, dude, I couldn't do, like, I do have longer bits, but I always start with a few one-liners just to kind of get them warmed up, because I'm like, if they don't like this bit, they're not going to like the rest of it. Like, if they're not down with the premise from the beginning,
right,
they're not going to like the rest of my jokes associated with it. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, if they don't like the first 5 to 10 minutes, I don't think the other 20 minutes is going to be sugar for the medicine,
No, yeah.
No, I've had a couple instances where it's like, oh, this crowd is going to eat me alive.
Yeah.
Because somebody will go up before me that I'm like, they should be killing right now. And the crowd is just like, fuck you.
Right.
Like, why would you come out to a show if that's going to be your overall mood? And so I see what's going on to the comedians before me, and I'm just like, oh no, they're not going to have anything to do with me. And then I get up there, and I say 1 or 2 jokes. It's like, okay, like this is, I feel like you guys are on my team. I'm going to keep going with this then, and keep doing my bits. And, the crowd keeps getting more and more involved and laughing more. I'm like, all right. This isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I get off the stage feeling like really good about myself. Like, wow, that went better than I thought it was. And the comedians before me are just like, yeah, cool. I'm glad it worked out so well for you.
Right.
Like, I walk off. But those nights, I feel like are more rewarding than the crowds that actually come to the shows and like,
oh yeah,
because you feel like you've won them over.
Right.
Whereas the crowds that come there for the specific reason to laugh, no matter what it is, it's just like, this was a gimme.
Well, there's always like, I feel like there's a fine line. You want a little bit of both. You don't want to feel like it's going to be a gimme going into it, because then maybe you're not going to try as hard. Yeah. And then, if you do lose the crowd, then it's just so much harder to get them back. But you also don't want to think that like immediately they're not on your side, because then you're sabotaging yourself, right?
Yeah.
I remember I did a show 2 months ago for Chris Schlichting. Mm-hmm. It was like this fundraiser. A buddy of his bought a mansion, and they were trying to raise money, to kind of do repairs or whatever to it.
Yeah.
And so we get there. It's me and Todd, Andrew King.
Was it at the mansion?
It was at the mansion. It was at the Renwick Mansion, I think. Is the name of it.
Okay.
So it's actually right by my house in Davenport. But
yeah.
So it was me, Andrew King, Donnie Townsend, Todd, and then Chris was headlining. And me and Todd get there first, and we're looking around. People are filing in, and it's a bunch of like teachers and blue hairs, and we both look at each other. We're like, "Oh fuck, this is not."
This is
like,
not
me and Todd are not necessarily clean comics. I mean, we're a little more risque when it comes to material. But Andrew King went up there, had a great set, and I probably had one of the best sets I've ever had. I mean, I just killed the room, and then Todd killed the room. Donnie destroyed the room, and then Chris, it was just like it was an insane show. But they came.
So everybody was, I mean, for lack of a better term, was everybody still able to be filthy or like?
Yeah, no, everybody did. I mean, I think during my set I did my Kmart joke. I did the Rite of Shame, which is a joke about how I'm bad at sex,
Let's be honest. All anything having to do with Kmart is a joke.
Right. Amen. So
I don't give a shit about Kmart, but I know that you hate them. So anytime I can trash Kmart and get a giggle out of you,
please do.
Yeah.
No, the Kmart isn't necessarily risky, but the Rite of Shame, and then I did my stuff about my heroin addiction, and they fucking loved it, dude. They thought, and so I went in there with this preconceived notion that these teachers and like kind of professionals were not going to like it, but they were there to laugh, and that's what they did. The best part was Todd brought 2 of his joke books, and one of them disappeared, and about 5 minutes later, we see this, maybe 80-year-old lady reading.
That was that show.
Okay.
Because I've heard this story before. But
yeah, so she's reading his joke book, and Tom was like, "What do I do?" And I was like, "Go get your notebook back."
Right.
And so, but instead of just like grabbing it from her and saying, "Hey, this is my notebook," he just started like questioning her. He's
like, "What you doing?"
And she's like, "Oh, I'm." They had this notebook out, and he's like, "Oh yeah, is it any good?" And she's like, "Well, it's kind of filthy and irreverent." And she like. She got a giggle out of it, before even knowing that it was his. And then he told the story on stage, like, before he did his set.
Yeah.
And everybody loved it. He's like, if she wants, she can raise her hand. She raised her hand. Everybody was there to have a good time, and so.
Good.
But it's one of those things where going into it, I was like, man, like, I'm going to eat shit at the show.
Right. Well, you got to think, like, teachers have to spend all week long being overly nice to a bunch of ungrateful kids.
Fucking assholes.
Right. So at the end of the week, when it comes time for a show, for them to sit around with their peers and kick back a couple adult Kool-Aids. And
they did.
And listen to some adult people tell adult shit, they're like, fuck yeah, let's roll.
Right.
Like, so I don't know. I think the idea of doing a show for teachers or people in that atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like, I think that'd be pretty hot. Like that would be.
I think it is, especially because they're probably. I mean, like you said, they're used to just being kind of proper and
cooped up.
And so like when you do a biker bar, you think, oh, this is going to be easy, but they're harder to impress because they kind of talk
they're
like
used
that.
to that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I will say though that kind of going back to the beginning. My idea of what I always have to remember is my idea of what I was going to be when I was a kid was based off of the wisdom and intelligence of a 14-year-old, right?
Right. What can we say? Children are dumb.
Children are dumb. I was no exception.
So stupid.
But what I realized though is like, and I've talked about this with other friends, is that because of that, I don't really care what I do today. Whatever I do today to make money is what I do.
Yeah.
As long as it keeps a roof over my head and gas in my car and the insurance paid, whatever, I honestly don't give a shit what it is.
Absolutely.
And in the meantime, I'm going to keep, trying to be funny and hone the skills that it takes to be a famous comedian.
For sure.
I don't think I'll ever get there. But I'm gonna fucking try,
It's worth a shot.
It's one of those things where like you just be realistic about what you can do. Like, I have a lot of friends who have been doing comedy for a long time, and they haven't gotten where they want to. And I think a lot of that is geographic location. They maybe would get more noticed if they were in a different spot. But it's fun, man. At the end of the day, I enjoy doing it.
Yeah,
it gets me out of my comfort zone. It allows me to explore my creative side.
No, I totally get it.
You do get it.
I do.
By the way, when are you going to come do my show, man?
Oh, I've got things that. No,
Well, you always work though, huh?
Dude, my